Good morning, everyone. You're listening to Turtle Island News with Tracey Kennedy. We have a guest today. We're joined by Tony King. He's been on our show several times before. An incredible healer and researcher. And I thought to set up the next series of topics, I needed a sounding board. And Tony is awesome to do that with. His research is always awesome. We have a tendency to be looking in the same things at the same time. And this is why I'm kind of pulled the show over a little bit this week. Because once again, seems a lot of people have a similar thing on their mind. So, welcome, Tony. Thank you for joining me today.
Thanks for having me. Hey, everybody.
Now, I do have to do the show shout-out, and, of course, you're listening to me, to us, Revolution Radio Studio A, TurtleIslandNews.info, Wolf Spirit Radio, and, of course, the Awake Radio Group. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. I want to bring up a couple different topics today. I've got some things that I told Tony and I were talking before the show about Admiral Byrd specifically. Now, we're not going to go into the hollow earth theory so much. Something else that he found really interesting, and I'm going to play it later. It's an old radio interview, which I thought it was cool. Now, during his Antarctic exploration, he gave warnings when he came back to the States that the world has suddenly changed, that our time as it was before has ended, that we're no longer able to take refuge in our own isolation and rely on distances of oceans and borders to guarantee safety. Now, after the operation, Admiral Byrd gave interviews, which is of great interest to me. There was this national TV show, 1954, called the Long Lines Kaleidoscope, something like that, or Chronoscope. Horrible name, but decent show segment. And we're going to be playing that again, maybe after the break we'll lead with that. Now, during this television interview, he spoke of an area that I've heard no one else mention that is beyond the South Pole, as large as the United States, which no one had set foot on as of that time, 1954. He went on to say there would be expeditions year after year. That the U.S. and all governments on this planet would be interested in this area. Now, this was when any perceived threat from Russia, now keep in mind 1954, was the only thing people were worried about at the time, but he said the South was different. And he said it was the most important place on this planet for science. And it would involve the future of this planet and an untapped resource. Untapped resources including coal, minerals, uranium, and he added that at the time of the interview there were 7 nations already engaged in the Antarctic, including Russia, Australia, Argentina, Chile, New Zealand. Now, during the interview, he talked about planning the next military mission to Antarctica. This was Operation Deep Freeze that ran only a year, 1955 to 1956. The mission was completed, and he supposedly just went home. I know most people will say, like, so what, Chase? Normally, that would not have happened after he just said, in a land that didn't have any pesky natives, it had almost no wildlife, there was nothing. Nothing there. But the mission just suddenly stopped. Nor were there other military missions, or much else that has ever happened there, conducted in over a century. There was a treaty immediately put place, the longest running treaty and the only treaty on this planet that has not been broken, that stopped any country from doing basically anything. So if you're wondering what you're missing here, Admiral Byrd on television saying that there was a massive body, ocean, that sits on a plateau that is 2 miles high, rich in every resource you could ever want, energy rich, pristine, no indigenous population, no plant life, although he goes to say it used to be warm there. And every country that set teams were ready to carve it up like a great big Christmas turkey free of charge. And that there's a land larger than the United States that no one had even looked at. Then out of the blue, everyone just calls the whole thing off. Now, there were no environmentalists in 1959 to stop anyone from diving this up. We've talked about the Enbridge and all the resource companies that will not stop in their greed. All the planet's resources being carved up from greed. And they found something on the edge of the world and just decided to stop. Now, Tony and I have talked about this in different ways, and all of the stories that I've done, kind of leading up to this point, before we go on to Inner Earth, and before we go on to Outer Earth. Now, I'm going to ask Tony to talk about some things, and we're going to talk about some movies too. But remember the invisible star-like force field that everyone's reported now. Now, researchers said, this is their words for what they said were found. A wall-like barrier, impenetrable, that's holding something away from the Earth. Radiation, they said. And it isn't our planet's magnetic field, it is something else. Researchers have determined a rather odd phenomenon they called the hiss. It is a low-frequency electromagnetic sound that is in the Earth's upper atmosphere. Now, all of the ancient texts, all of the ancient stories say one thing. That we live under the dome. That this planet, this universe, everything says that the Earth is flat and circular, sitting on pillars, with a rotating solid sky dome overhead, which carries the sun, the moon, and all the stars. It allows water to leak through the heavens, windows of heavens, or the gates, to form clouds and rain. That sounded weird. It's also called a glass-like construction. Every single ancient text talks about us under the dome. And they all say we were created by a word, specifically. A word, a sound. Now, scientists writing in Nature say they believe these waves coming in towards us protect us. because they don't want to say, oh my God, what the heck is that? It is a natural, apparently impenetrable layer. Their words, not mine. Impenetrable layer. And it appears to be extremely rigid and forms extremely sharp boundary edge in the inner edge of the radiation belt. When we went up, after we went out and decided we had everything we could possibly want in the south of this planet with no barriers, and stopped, and then we went up and we found something that was so scary that all of our next bombs went up there. And then we started bombing under the ocean. We have never made a hole. Never made a hole larger than 40,230 feet, which is about 7.6 miles deep. There is a 200 ice wall, feet, apparently, ice wall in the Antarctic. And then we go to the pictures of the United Nations. And of course it could be said that it's a flat surface, Trace. Their flag is going to be a flat surface. Except the image that they pick was from one of the ancient ideas of the flat earth, with the continents in a different representation than we are told. The globe idea of the earth is relatively new, and every single civilization seemed to have changed their idea about that at the same time. Now, if you want to keep an idea or a people in a mind control state, you give them ideas. You lie to them. And as we've seen, you kill their elders. This is what's done everywhere on this planet. First, you kill all the elders. You kill all the shaman and women. You take the women away. You rape them so that their children and the children of the next tribe will be as much you as them. You take the children of pure blood and you put them in schools so that when they're returned home, they are unrecognizable. And at that point, you've made all of their leaders people you chose. So every history book is rewritten. Every ancient tale is rewritten. Every following, spiritual or otherwise, is rewritten. It's why all of our stories are the same. People say there are 5 major religions. I'm sorry, there's one religion. Whether you want to call it the alien myth, when you've killed the elders and reinterpreted the old teachings, it's a reason why around the same time, from the same place in Aldebaran, Africa, we have the same myths that went from Africa, traveled all over Africa, went to India. India sent their Hinduism and their Buddhism throughout the world. We do not have many religions. We have one religion. One. Who's hiding the truth to something. What do you think, Tony? Are you still with me?
I'm here. I was listening to you. To me, when I hear of things like this, I look at it on multiple levels. Yes, they're raping and killing the elders, so they can't pass on the ancient knowledge to the soon-to-be elders. But what is it doing to them on an energetic level, as far as the rape mentality? I mean, you're scarring people for life. Like, no matter how much counseling or whatever you go through, it's still there. That scar is still there.
Yeah, it resonates through our DNA. So that
Exactly.
those traumatized people raise the next group. And traumatization in general does not get better. It gets worse. You make children who rape other children now. This is what's happening. It happens all over the world. There is a mutation of our DNA that has been so traumatized that in a lot of ways it's beyond repair. Now, I'm from a family, and we've talked about this privately, where I see that trauma. What it does. How it breaks people. It doesn't just shatter them. It breaks them. But there's got to be a reason that all the stories that I'm telling you are the exact same story.
It disconnects us.
Yeah, they could
Um,
tell us anything. I was told that in South America, they believe these tall white gods came to their land. That's not what it says. That's not what it says. That's what it was changed to say. As a matter of fact, from all of their paintings, they slaughtered the lighter-skinned people for their sacrifices, because at one point all religions get bloody. They just seem to. But we don't know if any of this is our religion. And I wanted to bring up some movies. And, I'll be going on to the flat earth theory in the next couple of weeks, but a couple of movies that really showed me how things could happen here. Dark City. Do you remember that one?
yeah, I remember that one.
This is a one where a guy, it's basically the Matrix theme again.
Hmm.
A guy noticing that things all around him seem off, almost programmed, scripted. What does that land look like? It looks like a flat earth with a dome. Then you can jump to, well, actually, the movie before that kind of sparked my interest was The Truman Show. He's in a dome. So you have a bunch of people all around him for product placement and stuff. And you have him, who's the only one in this place that does not know it's a show. In the end, he gets to the dome, goes off. That construction of the dome didn't work so well because, things weren't repaired. So that's a lot of people running one guy. And then you jump to the movie The Village, which I love that director so much because there's always twists and turns. So in that one, you get a whole bunch of people who've decided to abandon modern civilization. With a lot of money, they have stopped planes from flying over them. They have brought children in who were orphaned. They didn't steal those children, they adopted them. They brought them in and told them it was the 1800s. Those children had no idea it was not the 1800s. And through fear and manipulation told them that outside was bad, so they made an invisible layer around them with myths to bind them there, so that that generation of children, when the older ones died, would carry on this myth and keep them there. It was a land of control with no borders. It didn't need a border. It didn't need a dome. It needed an idea. So now we have cities where people complain but never leave. We have the cops and all these things, so we don't get to blame ourselves. but it's an idea that is controlling us. They don't need a FEMA camp now. We are in. One way or another, we are under the dome, and it is wild. Whether you want to look at that physical or mental. Although they did find this sound being broadcast to us by this dome that they said they found. We are in it. They don't need the cops, that's for sure. They need you to be afraid of certain things. Of course.
Isn't that why they always push this agenda to be scared of something? You use terrorism and ISIS and
Always.
all this.
They throw more fear. It's conditioning. It's reinforcing conditioning. And as a matter of fact, they don't need the cops. They have us. People will tell on each other so easily. They will jump all over you if you step out of the party line. If you talk to a whole bunch of people who believe in aliens and you suddenly don't believe in aliens, they reprimand you. They diss you. If you are a truther or a prepper and suddenly do not want to be a truther or a prepper, that group will diss you. We are the cops. And we are perpetuating their lies.
Well, you see how the average person living in a neighborhood will be nosy and wonder what their neighbor's doing. And
yes.
Be quick to call the cops. Not if somebody's getting hurt, but for ridiculous things.
Yes.
Oh, this person's dog was on my lawn, or some equally crazy. I have to laugh at it sometimes because I really can't wrap my mind around how disconnected we are as people, as a community.
Oh, absolutely. As a human race, which obviously everything we've heard are lies, it is much better for you to believe in a God, whatever you call him, believe in the alien idea, but we don't know, and this is honest, we do not know if any of what we are told our ancient teachings actually are ancient teachings, because most of these books were written within the last 500 years.
I mean, if you look at the Bible, it says, 144,000 people will be saved out of how many billions?
Yeah.
You look at the Quran, and you go to heaven and you get 100 versions. Like, that's my main focus. Once I pass on this world, I have to get my freak on. I mean, gotta
right.
keep myself busy.
Yeah. Well, sexuality, it's the easiest thing on this world. I think even Bush said that, is to sell a man, a woman. That's it. They will go crazy.
Prostitution is one of the oldest professions in the world.
Yeah, and we're still being manipulated by that. And fear. Or the fear-sex combo. Mm-hmm. Where, we're always looking for who did what. But I have no idea what that buzzing sound is.
Basically anything to keep our senses dulled.
Keep our sense of dull. Keep us in fear. Keep us sitting there drooling, looking at the TV. And ignore something important. Like, how is it, of all the conspiracy theories that I listen to, all the shows you and I listen to and talk about, that no one else I've ever heard said, isn't it weird that even the aliens seem to have come from the exact same place in Africa? All the religions? Everything? How could everything, all of our teachings, look exactly, not kind of like, not a little bit like, but exactly like one little strip of land?
And our structures that we build, the pyramids and things using, what is referred to as sacred geometry.
Yeah. That look the same. Where's the three-sided things? I've wondered for a long time, as I followed these religions, and I realize people really dig when I hit on their little idea. Whether, and I'm not saying it to or be disrespectful of people's beliefs. When I quote Bible structures, I get Bible people listening to me. When I quote Anunnaki stuff, which is a lie and badly translated, but, you get somebody saying the exact same thing and then repeating that thing. People just say, Tracey, you don't understand. Okay. Because that's not how you translate that. Yeah, but you don't know about the Anunnaki. You don't know about the ancient sky gods. But we don't know if any of the ancient people actually were taught about the Sky Brothers, or if that was an idea given to the people they allowed to live to teach the children who had already been raped at school to start teaching their children, and say that is ancient native idea. Ancient native from anywhere in the world. We don't know if any of that BS is true. That's why, you and I have talked about this off air. Why I get so upset when someone says, we are created as a slave race. We are created as a slave race because they want us to think we are created as a slave race. And then silently in the back, nobody goes to Antarctica. They admit there's a barrier that we can't pass through. So that means we've not gone to the moon. Just look at the distances. It means we have not gone to the moon. It means that we have not gone to Middle Earth. We have no idea what's down there. We're told that there's this liquid mass. Some people tell us there's the inner Earth story, of course. Just because there are volcanoes doesn't mean it's the structure that we're told it is. We have no proof. We can't go down there. We can't go far enough inside the earth to know what's there. If there is something there, we don't know. We do not know if what we look out and see is real. We know they can do holograms. We know that they can beam images into our heads. We know that they're doing that. They're doing everything to distract us. Who's to say that the builders didn't do this a long time ago?
Well, what does that do to us mentally when we're told that we're created as a slave race? But then you get people that want to turn around and find these Anunnaki so they can...
They want to find the aliens.
Yeah, what are you going to do? You're going to call them up and be like, hey, Sky Pops, so you owe me some back child support, or you never took me to a game, or something.
That's right.
Like, what are you going to do? You're going to try to make contact with them and hope that these people don't enslave us again? I mean, that doesn't even make sense, that we were created as a slave race and then they just left us not to be continued as slaves. That right there is that mentality that keeps us doing this 9 to 5, coming home, watching TV, sitting on our couch, eating Doritos, thinking life is good, when actually life is not good when you're a slave. Because that is the slave mentality.
That is a slave mentality. But with one of the ancient stories, let me say it to you in a different way. Here's what I do. If suddenly we started to question and think perhaps something put a barrier around us, somebody thinks that, or they would not have bombed the sky and taken 50 years to come out and say there's a barrier up there. We bombed ourselves. So here's what I do. We are an industrial people. Sure, we fight about everything. We've been taught that there is a lack. So I would say to my brothers and sisters, we need to put this childish stuff away. Let's build a tower. But calling it a tower would be like calling the pyramids a sandcastle. I would say, the mountains we love, let's blow those things up. We are going to build this magnificent thing, I wouldn't be saying, oh good, we found God. I'd be saying, nah, let's blow a hole in that thing. Let's build this tower so big, let's break through and raise our fists to the gods. Stop our fights, stop our wars. Let's build this tower. Let's break through that stuff. Find a way to do it. Find a way. We would stop fighting. I think us as a people, if we really knew that was true, and I'm not saying it is, it's just another oddity that I found. We would blow up everything, use every bit of water, every bit of dirt, every bit of mineral, every bit of human DNA, bone structure, nanoparticle. We would make a thinking machine to pierce that thing. So what would the builders do? If they really don't want us getting out, well, they make us find a way to be born without memory. They find a way to make us go through this stuff alone so we can no longer be friends again. They find a way to change us genetically. Maybe we look a little different. And they give us trauma so that we have to start all over again. Kind of a different way to look at the Tower of Babel story. If you really read what the texts say, we did. Reading at the ancient texts of when we got together, I'm not saying it was the last time, maybe a couple times before, to try to break that thing. I'm sure there were times when we found the dome, the ceiling, the glass ceiling, which is interesting because that's what ancient texts call it, the glass ceiling, or reflected mirror. We found the ceiling. Some of us would fall to our knees and listen to that reflected sound, which I've said before. You know, when we talked about that movie, They Live, there was always a sound being broadcast. There is. They found it. They announced it. It's here. They would fall to their knees and replace that sound. That mantra, that word, which is actually in the Christian texts and Rosicrucian texts and many of the newer age stuff. It's called the Logos because the Greeks and the Romans had no word for mantra. It's the sound. We found the sound, we start giving the sound, we pray to God. I'm sure some of us would do that. Religion would be happy because they'd have another way to enslave us because they could say, see, we were right, science has lied to you. Others of us would start whispering. Say, so we've been lied to by NASA. We've been lied to by all of the science. Stephen Hawking would be out of a job. NASA would be out of a job. Every space agency tech would be out of a job. We would no longer want those. I think we'd build a tower. I'd volunteer to build that tower, to break that ceiling, to attack what's ever up there, and I'm sure both things have happened. And for some reason or another, they've decided this time, you know what? Separating them is not enough. Changing their skin color is not enough. Making them sick and weak and afraid. We'll see how that combo goes. We will let them police themselves in this open-air prison. It seems to me, Tony, if we're being lied to about everything, if we're being lied to about what the space agencies are actually doing up there,
if
hypothetically,
oh, okay, we're doing a hypothetical.
If, just in case, oh my God, you mean they lied to us? If they lied to us about these ancient texts, they lied to us that we were never monkeys, we were always smart, But they genetically manipulated so that we realize that we are smaller than everything that's been here. But still related, which I'm sure is, you know, putting a big question mark in my head. So they've tried to make us weak and insignificant and afraid and lied to us about stories and told us there's all these planets and stuff. But they just said there is a barrier we cannot go past up. The heavens, the firmaments, that we cannot fly by. They said we can't fly by that. We can't go past that. And there's several layers of it. As a matter of fact, I think we have to go back to Dante's stuff. It talks about the 9 layers of heaven and the 7 circles of hell and the 3 layers basically of earth. It's purgatory. And see if Buddy did not get some help from the other dimensionals. And I'm not saying they're not here. All you got to do is look outside. You see them. Got some help and told us the layers of things. And the weird thing, Tony, that I had never talked about before, and just because I hadn't read it, only one little tech nerdy outlet says that apparently if we fly close to the layer, we will stop aging. And the layer has a sound. What? And then it's never spoken of again.
Do they mention the diameter, the measurements of this structure, this force field barrier?
What they say is the upper level of it is 6,800 miles above us. And that ultra realistic electrons, which is a very odd word for these things, with an intense energy level, can get no closer to Earth's surface than that. Something is being kept out, and we can't fly that high. We can't. We can't. Now, I'm sure there have been many varieties of us on this planet that have used that to power everything. That's why you get radio transmissions from the ancient structures. I'm sure many did that. So they fell to their knees and worshipped this thing. The barrier. The great sound. It's why the mudras started the sound.
That was my first impression hearing about it, was that what are we trying to keep out or possibly keep in that barrier? Because you talked about people coming towards or getting in the vicinity of this barrier, and then they drop to their knees, which makes me think of praying.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I'm sure some do that. They found the barrier, and I'm sure we are not the first to have found the barrier, or we would not have so many stories of us being in a barrier. Greeks, Jews, Sumerians, Chaldeans, Christians speak of the firmament, the rakia, the pillars of heaven, the molten mirror, the ends of the earth. Numerous references to the ends of the earth. Because if the earth was a sphere, it could not have ends.
Doesn't it seem like there's a lot going on in this planet throughout its history?
Yeah,
that
That's
seems like it might not happen on other planets as much. Like, I'm not saying that they don't have conflicts and stuff, but it seems like, I mean, when you put like everything together, I mean, we've had what ancient gods come down and then Trav, you like got Cthulhu and
yes,
Dagon, and then
yes,
you've got Jesus, who died for people's sins, as the book says, which makes me wonder, like, okay, I know that there's life outside this planet, so does that mean that the sins of the entire universe have been forgiven, or just this planet? How is that localized? But you've got all these stories of weird creatures
yes,
and enhanced humans, and I mean, we even put it into our media today, and people just think that it's fiction, but this is
yes,
coming from somewhere, and a lot of
yes,
times it's coming from the ancient texts.
yes. You know, yeah. So how would it change your mind when we used to think that the earth was a dome, right? And we were inside of everything, and that there were four corners of the earth, and we still use that term. That time had a beginning, that the universe had a beginning, that the universe was created from the invisible, that all the dimensions of the universe were created. But this is confirmed by our modern science, that there is a dimension, that there had to be a beginning, that we came from nothing. I'm not saying this is the only universe, but that the creation of matter and energy apparently has ended. This is, I don't know, but that this is all it is, that's already built, and that we're just recycling stuff. And they say that the universe is winding down. Second law of thermodynamics. Says the universe will run down. So that there needs to be a new one. And little and quietly in every ancient book, somewhere towards the end of that book it says, and then there will be a new earth under the heavens.
Uh,
What would it do to us, Tony, if we thought this was all there was? That there are no others out there. That there really is no out there. That we have here. We have this. Would we not fight harder for here and this?
I believe we would. Which is why I don't understand why, and I'm not saying people shouldn't want to, familiarize themselves with our family out there in the stars, but we can't even come together as a community here. Why would you think that they would accept you? Because they're going to be a lot more advanced than us if they're coming here. Why would they accept you and you can't accept other people here?
Oh, jeez. We worry about somebody having a different hair color. But, again, what if they don't exist, guys? What if there are no others? What if there have been other forms of beings here that have been scrapped for one reason or another? Because there must have been at least one group like us who said, hey, you a-holes, did you trap us in here? You did not just trap us in there. All of a sudden we'd be looking at each other going, hey brother, I'm giving everything out of my fridge, including my fridge, to build that thing, so we're going to attack those mofos.
I would believe we would start doing what we should have started doing a long time ago, and trying to save this planet, and trying to save ourselves, fix ourselves.
Well, we could go either way. We could go that way and say, there's nothing else out there. We need to take care of this. We can only go so far down. We can only go so far up. This is all we have. This is the only air we're ever going to have. And what's that sound from that thing? Could we use it? Could we actually, for 5 minutes, put down the guns and everything else and grab hands across this planet and with our intent fix it? Or do we go the other way and say, I'm going to blow up every frickin' resource on this planet and we are busting through that dome? Does that not make more sense than saying, there's a few, 18 as a matter of fact, 18 rich white guys owning everything who hate black people? They may, because they want to live forever and you need melanin in your skin to be able to do that. It makes your bones different. It makes your organs different. It makes you stronger. This is true. And there's racism. But what if there's racism for a purpose? They said they're making nano stuff from certain people's DNA. Of course they're selling our organs. That goes with every war there's probably ever been. But I think some people on this planet right now are building something to blow that thing up. Because what's the first thing they do? What are they doing now? They said that they're concentrating on the Van Allen belt. They've sent more nukes up there. The first thing they did when they found it is send nukes up there. They're taking and blowing apart our beautiful mountains that we love to blow something up there.
So the Van Allen belt is a belt of radiation, and you're going to use radioactive weapons to blow it open.
Kind of makes like you're shaking your fist at the gods.
So I'm going to throw grease onto a grease fire.
Absolutely. We're pissed off, Tony.
So when I hear stuff like that, I really don't believe that they're that stupid. I think they think that we're that stupid, that we would actually believe that. That's probably the story that they come up with, but that's not what they're doing, though. Just like that magnetosphere. Oh, this could, that satellite that they...
that herd of satellites they just put up?
The one that's like, oh, this could cause our clouds to turn different colors. Like, what?
Yeah, let's mess with it. Okay, so they are messing with their clouds. Okay, another theory, another reason. I'm just throwing things out there. I'm not saying it's true. I want to hear what you think, Tony, before we go into the next topic, Thursday. So, we have made nuclear reactors on this planet, which put tiny little pinpricks all across our world that actually go into every dimension there is. That may even break the 7 veils of heaven. The 9. The nets of the 9 veils are the 9 veils of heaven that they talk about. Dante's Inferno is actually a 3-parter. One is Pillars of Heaven or something like that. So you break in the 9 veils, Dance of the 9 Veils, with these nuclear explosions. You are causing, even by the nuclear reactors, which are aligned with aluminum, which would be ridiculous unless you're making a shield for us to put something else out. But you're also making holes in dimensions that is going to affect space and time and all other beings and all other dimensions, and allow a back and forth process. Some of them are getting in. Some of us may be getting out. And then you circle the planet, which cannot go very high, as a matter of fact. You circle the planet with satellites that all have nuclear weapons. We've talked about this. And also broadcast to the Earth certain frequencies. But out, they broadcast something else. And then you go to the highest belt you can go, and you encircle that with bombs. And then you do things to entertain people here, so black people will think it's the white people will think it's everybody else. Christians will think it's the Muslims will think it's the Hindu will think it's the Buddhist will think, blame everybody, hate everybody. So while we're busy fighting each other over trifling issues, they build CERN. It says we are not just going to make little tiny pinprick holes. We are going to contact them. We are going to contact these other dimensions, because that's what they say they're doing. And we're going to rope one up. We'll be right back, everybody. Give me your thoughts on that. Welcome back, everyone. You're listening to Turtle Island News with Tracey Kennedy, and joined today by Tony King, live under the dome. I think I'm on Turtle Island. I have no idea really where I am. I don't know.
You're under the dome, remember?
I'm under the freaking dome, one way or another. So, with all the stories and the tales and the histories that I've muddled through, let's do a couple more, for instance, that the Nazis actually did contact something. That all the stories that changed, like the Cthulhu and the new Anunnaki myth, because that's relatively new in the scheme of things. When Byrd said there was a 200-mile barrier, which he said live on air, and I'm going to play that for you. Actually, let's listen to that. Let's listen to what he said on this interview. But, okay, let's just listen to that, and then let's talk about it. And you should be able to hear this too, Tony.
Okay.
Okay, here we go. His guest for this evening is Admiral Richard E. Byrd.
The North Pole used to be a no-man's land, but these are the days when, by buying a ticket on a commercial airliner, you can fly across the North Pole and drink a cocktail at the same time. Only 70 or more years ago, about 35 years ago, our guest tonight found out whether there was any land north of the North American continent. He made that first discovery flight, and I must say that Admiral Byrd, our guest tonight, is not only our greatest living explorer, but he's been an inspiration to countless Americans. Admiral Byrd, you've been to both the North Pole and the South Pole. Is there any unexplored land left on this earth that might appeal to adventurous young Americans?
Yes, there is. And not up around the North Pole, because it's getting crowded up there now, because they find out it's really usable, not only to live in, but militarily. But strangely enough, there's left in the world today an area as big as the United States that's never been seen by a human being. And that's beyond the pole, on the other side of the South Pole, from Middle America. And I think it's quite astonishing.
Now wait a minute. The land beyond the South Pole. He just said that. Live on TV. Okay, go on.
That there should be an area as big as that unexplored.
That's a tremendous
So
challenge.
there's a lot of adventure left down at the bottom of the world.
Admiral, an expedition to which I believe you're the advisor is now en route. What is that expedition doing?
Well, that's the icebreaker Atka, and it's a reconnaissance expedition. It's going down to the South Pole area to make certain observations and to look for some bases. They will be back in April, and they will report back, and upon the information we get from that undertaking, we will base the bigger expedition that's to follow.
Is that very definitely planned, or is that...
That is being planned right now. So I'm willing to say to you that there will be a number of expeditions that will follow, I think, year after year, at the bottom of the world, because the government has really become interested.
Well, Admiral Byrd, I can understand, I think everybody can, the interest in the North Pole because it's so near our greatest challenger, Soviet Russia, but why this interest in the bottom of the world? Nobody living down there, is there?
No, it's pretty cold. There's only one permanent resident, that's the emperor penguin. The little ones live further north. I tell you one reason they're interested. It's by far the most valuable, important place left in the world for science. That's why the scientific groups all over the nation are really interested. But more important than that, it has to do with the future of the nation, those to come after us, or even during your lifetime, because it happens to be an untouched reservoir of natural resources. And as the world shrinks with an ever-increasing acceleration, far-flung places once useless, like we thought the North Pole was, and no man's land, become very useful. The bottom of the world will be important, not only to us but to our allies.
I was going to ask you, does it have military importance?
It has some, and as the world shrinks, it will continue to shrink with an ever-increasing acceleration, thus bringing these places closer. And in the future, I can see a time when it will be very, very important strategically.
Well, has the development of air power increased the strategic importance of places like the
very much
Palma Peninsula, we'll say?
Very much so. Even now, if anything happened and we lost the Panama Canal, we would have to control the islands just north of Antarctica, which are part of Antarctica. And between there and Cape...
Admiral, you speak of the resources of Antarctica. What are they? What are the natural resources there?
Well, we've found enough of coal within 180 miles of the South Pole in a great ridge of mountains. It's not covered with snow, enough to supply the whole world for quite a while.
Well,
that's the coal. Now, there's evidence of many other minerals. We are pretty...
Wait, a ridge of mountains not covered by snow. Are you with me? Okay.
Sure, there's oil. Now, that coal shows the bottom of the world. Now, by far the coldest spot in the world. Where that coal is gets 100 below zero in the winter.
Well,
it was once tropical. So we think there's oil there, and there's evidence, probably uranium there.
is it any secret, is there uranium there? That would be the only thing that would be practical to actually go after, I suppose. Everything else would be economically unfeasible, wouldn't it?
Well, as we recklessly expend our resources, the time will come when we'll have to go after that stuff down there. Well, I avoided what you said about uranium. I'm not sure about that. I don't want to have the world fight over the Antarctic.
Robert, is there a competition among other nations to try to get information about Antarctica and possibly to secure some of these resources?
Well, yes. There are now 7 nations very much interested. Russia is interested tremendously. That I'm sure of. Australia has an expedition down there. The Argentine, the Chile, New Zealand, Britain, and so on. Now, you can understand those people down there being interested because they live down there, the New Zealanders, the Argentinians, the Chileans, and Australians. And so we don't do much about claiming anything.
Admiral, you make it sound a little crowded. Are there that many expeditions now there or en route there?
Well, as I said, it's the most peaceful place in the world, but I don't think it will be for long because of this intense interest on the part of other nations and this nation.
Okay. So they found a place so mineral rich with no pesky natives, with no animals and no plant life, although the second land, which he just spoke of, was not covered in snow. And yet after his journey that lasted for a year, and this is true, they made a deal. It's the only treaty on this planet that we know of that the planet has kept to. Nobody's going down there. Not to the second island.
when he mentioned that second island,
Yes.
it reminded me. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, but it almost reminded me of the Savage Land from the X-Men comics. How they went to Antarctica and there was this whole land untouched, but they had natives there and they had dinosaurs and advanced technology too from a ancient god.
Something frightened the people on this planet. People who are greedy, people who are destroying the planet, so that they didn't go back. They found the pillars of heaven. They found something. They found something that made people quiver. Spoke to something, perhaps?
One of those names that should never be mentioned out loud.
Yeah. They meant something there. That, yes, there's all kinds of things happening in the far north. But there, we have decided, the people who found these things, people who talked about it, people who know everything, decided they don't go there. That will not be breached. That is over. We found the Van Allen belt, immediately tried to explode that. We are raping this planet of resources in a way that cannot be explained to me other than we're trying to build something. So, a question again. Now myself, I would prefer them to say, look, we found the entrance to something down there. Tell us what it is. That we made little holes in times and space by every nuclear explosion that we've done here on land. It's different than what they've done in the water. Although, we've talked about Cthulhu, we've talked about the under earth, we've talked about the modes of hell, which to me, when you look at the ancient pictures, the layers of heaven are up there. Layers of hell are underneath us, and we still have a barrier. And we like to dig. We're probably, with the satellites up there, blowing holes all over the world, trying to get past it. That's what the sinkholes could be. Just a theory, of course. If they told us, this is what we're doing, I'd say, look, I'm fond of this planet. Let's hold this together. And then, yes, I am 100% with you, and I think there'd be a lot of us saying, let's keep this planet together. Didn't have to go after those beings. And be careful who you're inviting in through the little time portals and stuff, too. I can't believe them. They probably had something to do with trapping us in here. But I think most of the world would say, let's join together, let's fix this planet, then let's go after them. Let's do it. Just tell me. Because it can't be just for a few guys' rich pockets. It can't be just that. Of course there's greed. Of course there is. But it's got to be something else. It's got to be something deeper. It's got to be.
So we've talked about how Solomon used the Star of David to trap jinn in bottles. We talked about how Semyaza, Satan, Lucifer, one of them, probably I think it was Semyaza, is the one that's trapped in the pyramid, one of the pyramids in Giza.
Semyaza, trapped in either a pyramid or down at the abyss. They say that he goes down the stairs to the abyss. That he's not dead, he's sleeping. That the ancient ones are not dead, they're sleeping. They're in the pit, they're in the abyss, they're in the waters. We'll talk about the old ones.
Yeah, I highly doubt we have the power to destroy a being of that magnitude. But it makes me wonder, if we can trap them, why wouldn't it be feasible for them to trap us?
If they know Two Dog said, yeah, Tracey, let's do both. I'm for it. Let's do both. Tell us what's going on, and I bet you people will volunteer. Tell the Americans they want to have a gun for everything. They will 100% be behind you saying, oh yes, we need to kill those things. Just for general principles. I don't say let's go kill those things. No. Let's stop inviting all these interdimensional things that are putting ideas in people's heads. They're saying, we are your ancestors and we love you. Yeah, let's wait a minute. Let's find out who Bob the Builder really is. I'm going to need a little talk with Bob the Builder. I think Admiral Byrd went to South America and found God. Because he never did an interview again about it. We heard the last interview. Well, he did a series before he went, but after it, nope. Apparently he came home, but we never heard of him again.
And supposedly had a lost journal or something. Yeah,
the entire planet said, the entire, leaders of the planet, this is after the Second World War, this is when everyone was afraid of Russia, they sat down at a table with Russia and all the leaders that he mentioned, signed a treaty. We don't go to the second island. Nobody goes there. I don't know if Bob is cute. I have no pictures of Bob the Builder.
When you know that the governments don't even want to touch this thing, then you know it's something serious.
Yeah, when you have these greedy corporations that are drilling the heck out of our planet, taking everything, that don't go there. Why is Enbridge not down there? Why are they not down there? Yes, of course, it's chilly. Yes, of course, there's the big salt water. Yes, of course, planes can only fly in. There are all kinds of things on this planet that have made this southern continent difficult. Cold, ice, maybe demons in the water. But why have I heard nobody else talk about the second island? And he just said it, and this was the time when people just said stuff.
Oh, I'm pretty sure they shut that down quick.
They're not talking about it now. Nobody's talking about, wait a minute. What's down there? I want to know what's down there.
Now see, this is a prime example. Now this happened in the early 1900s. It hasn't even been a full 100 years. And you've heard about this thing like once or twice throughout that period of time. Apply that to everything that we've ever heard throughout history.
Yes.
What aren't we being told?
That's what I'm saying. And I'm with Two Dog. Let's do both. Now let's fix the planet and let's go get these a-holes. Let's go do I want to know what's under the planet and why we can only drill 6 miles, almost 8 miles down. I want to know why they just said we can only go up a certain amount, and apparently we can only go south a certain amount. I want to know these things. They are so scared of what's in the South Pole that every single continent has been raped. The land and the peoples. But they're like, oh no, we got that treaty. They've never listened to a treaty. Ever. They blew up the planet after the Second World War. The World War, I would say, that never finished. But they won't go down there. They found that thing circling our planet, above our planet, and decided that they would get together and stop fighting and blow that up. They couldn't do it.
You're talking about the Black Knight?
Well, no, maybe. could just be a scrubber circling us, fixing things. Could have been made by Bob, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. And why does that thing make a sound? It is the word, which the books do say we had, which all the books said we were covered with something, and it's broadcasting a sound. They, of course, are broadcasting sounds right into our heads, maybe trying to disrupt that sound. Who built that thing? What built that thing? What are they letting in to give them ideas? And, stop that, by the way. People who are listening right now, if any of you happen to be NSA or CIA, pass that message on. Stop that, first of all. Don't be making deals with things you don't understand. Tell the people, because there are people here that are still really smart. There are children that are really, really quick. We could work together and fix this. Stop lying to people that the color of your skin makes you different. It affects your temperament. It affects your physicality. It affects things. We know that.
Quit trying to disconnect everything.
Yeah, stop trying to disconnect everything. We would help. You know, we may be little, but we are vicious, nasty little things when you mess with our family. We could bring, even Reagan said when he was deep into the dementia right then, said, if there was a common goal, he was at the point where I think for a moment we got a bit of truth. Act or not, that, he was crazy enough that he said, I'm old, I don't care. That he was saying, we have a common enemy. Or at least it's something, I don't understand it, so I don't like it. I do not like this thing. And again, let's go back to that story of the village. It takes nothing. They got some kids and raised them believing it was the 1800s and dressed them up and told them there was a bad color. Not on people's shade of skin, but certain plants. Told them there were monsters in the woods. That's all it takes. It doesn't take generations, guys. And I realize it was just a movie, but it's so obviously true that can be done. You take those children, and the next group of children reinforces what you just told them. And as they become parents, they teach this to their kids. And the first group who never knew they had lived in any other way totally believe and would probably fight me if I said that was not true. That's how quick it is. That's how easy it is. One group of children retrained. That's what's happened on every continent we've been in. Every. That's what happened here. And I'm going to be saying honestly, and I know I'm going to be getting emails, the natives here do not know what it was before. We have glimpses, we have images, but we don't know for sure. We don't know for sure. There's no one on this continent who has not been indoctrinated to the point they will get mad at you, reprimand you, and the groups close in if you say, this is not true. Your gods don't exist. They will get mad. But there is something in South America. Well, not South America. There is something in the bottom of our planet. There is something underneath the surface that we cannot penetrate. There is something above us that we cannot penetrate. And I want to know what they are. I want to know about the little holes that they are blowing through time and space, because that's going to affect every dimensional thing and probably tick them off.
As above, so below.
Right. It's probably
Can't
doing
go up,
it in
can't
our
go down.
DNA. I'm sorry, Tony, go on.
Oh no, that. I was just saying, can't go up, can't go down.
Can't go up, can't go down, can't go across. It's like the world had edges.
Like we're stuck here with each other, under the same umbrella.
Under the dome. So, if we're here, and what if, just what if, there is only this, in this dimension. There is only us. And this good earth. Do we stop the nonsense? Do we stop, we're choosing to fight their wars, but we're calling them. That's already a disconnect. We don't need a them. They don't need a them. We police ourselves, our ideas, our thoughts, our images, everything. I've had some of the worst arguments ever with people who believe a certain side of enlightenment. Even when I show them, but this is not what the text says. Who will sit and talk about Sitchin's literature or any other's literature that they have not actually researched, but will fight you and argue with you and call you names because you're just asking the question.
I mean, isn't that like that with majority of religious people? I mean, how many people have actually sat down and read the Bible front to back and then fully comprehended what's being told?
Read the actual book, not the really bad Greek translation, who didn't have words for some of the things it was expressing, not the really bad Roman, who had to change everything, but the original books, who are again from one place in Aldebaran, which is Africa, one little strip of land west to east, that have been the base of every religious idea. And then look at the symbol of the UN with the little laurel leaf, because it doesn't have Antarctica. And people will say, Trace, you got to make it that way. Yeah, but they're using something specific. They're using an old Middle Eastern Aryan, so Iranian, Persian, picture of the flat earth and a little opening on top. There's a little opening on top, but on the bottom there's a barrier, and around us there's a barrier. There is, in a little group around the middle section, are the continents. On the outside there's water. On the far edge there's a laurel reef, impenetrable barrier. On the top there's an opening. Why use that? Why didn't they put a little circular rope spinning? Why didn't they put how we've been told the continents look like? Because it doesn't look like that. How come when anything flies in the southern hemisphere, and you can check me on this, about a half hour from any landmass, the GPS goes off. It's like the planes disappear, which we've seen, a lot of planes disappear. And then when they get about a half hour towards the next coast, they magically come back on. Check me on it. Check me. They're gone for as long as their flight is. They are not on GPS, which is made, and the whole world uses it, by United States.
Yeah, because they got to be able to track you.
You would think. Except, you know what we found? We've seen planes fall into the ocean in the southern hemisphere. We can't find them. Of course, they're conspiracy theories because it's way easier for us to believe it was a cover-up than to hear the truth that we can't get them. We don't have GPS that works there because we were not supposed to go there.
I'm pretty sure if something is advanced enough to erect such a structure, they have security measures set up to either keep you out or keep you in, or probably both.
Yeah, and you know, from the readings that I've done about Admiral Byrd and the live broadcast, that there is a wall. He calls it the ice wall. The ice wall with no snow on the second continent down there. And nobody talks to me about the second continent. What about the second continent? Yes, inner Earth and the North, fine. I'm fine with that. But I'm interested in this. What is this? What did he just talk about? What is that? And why did they stop going? Why did they send no one else? He sent up a 13-ship expedition down there. Once. This is a man who made Indiana Jones. He would have beat Indiana Jones 6 days a week and twice on Sunday. This is a real explorer. And he had money. He came for money too. And everybody backed him because he was awesome. He didn't go back. He did not go back. She says to herself, questioningly.
He mentioned that there were no natives, right?
No natives, no vegetation, no animals on that second one.
Said no natives, no plants.
Nothing. He said, but there were. There were. He said that at once it was warm there. This is the story of the petrified trees and stuff like that. He said it was once warm, but there's nothing now.
So he says that there's no natives. He specifically said natives, and there's no plant life, but he didn't say that there's no life there at all.
He pretty much said there's no life there. He said there's no one to worry about. It's open season. It has everything we need right there. So a place that is rich in resources and you don't go?
Yeah, I'm just not. But then what movie came out right after this expedition in Antarctica? The thing that comes from another planet? The movie where they found the life form in the ice?
Yes. And again, that's in the first island. That's not the second island.
But that's close in the vicinity. I mean, if that's in the icy region, then what's on that other island?
I love the thing, by the way. That's still one of my favorites. The old one. The new one was like...
the black and white. That's classic.
Yeah, the one that... the guy who played Snake Liscum. Something about Escape from L.A.
Kurt Russell.
Yeah, I love him.
Yeah, the John Carpenter adaptation.
Yeah, where everyone says, do not dig in the ice. Do not dig in the ice. Every story that talks about digging in the ice says, don't do that because you're going to get monsters and aliens and all kinds of crap. And they keep doing it. They just decided to make, to combine elephant and mammoth DNA. How about we save our elephants here? Didn't we worry about creating things that the planet has said, you know, we need not to have those things? Let's trust her for a second.
Yeah, it seems like we're always going to have some kind of mad scientist one.
Oh, they're messing with DNA so much, you know. Mm-hmm. I don't know if they're getting messages from whatever they've contacted, because I'm still believing it wasn't just a war of metal that happened in the Second World War. The Second World War changed everything. Changed everything.
Well, you see that this past war where Afghanistan attacked us, but then we went to Iraq and raided their museums for certain things. why would that not be feasible? That's happened probably in just about every other war.
I think there have been many beings here, and I think there's been new worlds in the little passages in every single book, and there will be a new world and a new firmament into the heavens. And, the things that sounded so far off, like there was a word, well, there's a word coming from that thing. It's a hum. It's a sound. It's the sound of creation.
Light, sound, resonance.
Yeah, they'd like to say they went to look at the Third Reich down there. But, again, that was 4 years after the war. And they were all in Argentina, because Americans helped ship them over there. And the people on this planet, the governments, fought over the Nazi scientists who were all channelers, who were all involved in that religion that's, Christian and Jewish. Catholic and Jewish specifically, but it's the same friggin' religion. It's just one flavor of it. It's the same religion. We're following the same friggin' religion. Everything I'm reading to you says you're following the same religion. That's why the stories are the same way. Everybody has a Noah, and it's always 8 guys on a friggin' boat. Always.
I think I feel everybody listening needs to really educate themselves on everything, not just the belief system that you were raised and programmed to, but let's say you were raised Christian. Study Buddhism, study Taoism. I'm not saying that you have to follow and believe it, but at least educate yourself to see what's going on in the world and how it all connects together.
Yeah. Wasn't it about the Third Reich? No, not there. I don't think so. By what he said. By what he said, it was about resources and setting up bases there. Although he did say he wanted to see if there's bases there. He said that. But whatever he found, direct channel to God, because I'll read you some of the old texts again about this specifically, of how the planet is set up. Because people are pretty darn specific that it's a plate with a dome. Over and over and over again. Plate and a dome. And then all of a sudden we changed our minds on that it's a globe. And then they put globes in the classroom all over the world, divided, along the lines of whatever the heck John D. was channeling. We said, okay, now it's a globe. With no proof. And the fake images from NASA to show, well, this is as close as I can get to proof for you. Every image we have from NASA shows like a soundstage where you see 4 sides, but not the back wall. Well, 3 sides, not the back wall. You never see a 180-degree pan. You never see a 360. Ever.
That's because they don't want to take the chance of you catching something else that you're not supposed to know is up there.
There's this little beautiful movie, which I am still not sure how this movie got out, called Capricorn 1, who talks about how they would fake a mission to Mars. You gotta watch that movie.
I've heard of it, but I haven't seen that one yet.
I'll send you a link. You can watch it on that one free site I go to, that solar movie one.
Oh,
But
okay, cool.
Talks about how they do it, and how, and just one other tiny little piece of info. This group decided to bring in NASA astronauts for a meeting, and they said it was just going to be interviews, the regular interviews they go to. The only difference was, and it wasn't just NASA, it was astronauts from all over the world. It's just a tiny little piece of info. None of the NASA scientists would swear on the Bible. They specifically asked them to swear on the Bible that everything they said would be the truth. They not only refused, they got angry. Once it broke out in a fist fight, and I'm going to track that one down for you so we can hear it, see it. They refused. Because I think it was on the sound stage that these missions never happened. I don't think we've ever been to the moon. Because why would was it John Glenn? I'll have to look it up, guys, I'm not sure. He got mad. You will lie because of all kinds of things. You will lie for all kinds of reasons. There's always a reason to make you do what you're told. You got children, you got family, you got one thing or another. But these guys refused to swear on a book. They refused. And it wasn't in court. It was in a little interview room. They refused. They would talk about anything, but they would refuse to swear on it. I think Admiral Byrd and his team, who have never spoken of this, went to the second island. And whatever they found scared them so much. It scared them more than the Van Allen belt. We just blew that up. That's what we did when we found that. We blew it up. The dome. We blew that up. But what they found in Antarctica scared them so much. The only treaty ever really kept on this planet was because of something they found. To me, that's fear. And they haven't come back. Dun, dun, dun.
That's something serious right there.
Yep.
Not only did they not go back, but no one else did.
Nobody went back. Not even a greedy, resource-robbing company went back. We know on the first island there are stationed military. We know that. Nobody goes beyond that barrier. Who'd they find? What did they find? What did they find that was so frightening to men who don't get scared easily? They don't, guys. They don't frighten easily, these guys. So, I'm wondering about Shell Beach, the dome. That Shell Beach one, I think that was Dark City. Where still he uses the energy of the dome itself to create a new world. Where that guy, what's his name? The one that was in, he was in a dome and he was frightened so much not to go outside the dome. Oh, Lowe's found it. Armstrong refusing to swear in the Bible. Yeah, that's the one. Armstrong.
Oh yeah, I've heard of that.
And there's none of the NASA astronauts swore in the Bible. None.
Just because they knew. They're probably religious and knew that if they did that,
That they were.
that would be a huge hit on their karma.
Yeah, what if you knew there really was a God? And it really mattered. It really mattered if you said some stuff. I don't know if there's truth in the Bible, but there's perhaps the Bible is just a piece of paper. I don't think that's what scared them. I think they found God, and they knew God existed. A God, if you want to call him Yah, whatever you want to call him. They know something. They know something that frightens them so much. And after years and years and interviews, they couldn't do it.
Which kind of indicates that it was not human or
That's right.
human related.
These
Because
are
no one's going to fear a man.
these are the top guys, right? These are people so well trained. So well trained. Physically. Their bravery wouldn't, we've seen people go too far, and maybe those stories, flying too close to the sun, you burn up and you die. They've seen something that frightens them on a deep, deep level, and something that they found that they will not. It's one of those lines, hear no further. You can't do it. And if it was only one guy, I'd say he's just really religious. The Bible means a lot to him, that's fine. But he's lying. But all of them refused to. Not one of the guys. And you would think you'd have one weak link, because there's always a weak link.
Mm-hmm.
Not these guys. Not when it's that serious. They knew something. I'm sure that they found out what really happened, what was really told by Admiral Byrd. Oh wait, we got a call. Hold on one sec.
Okay.
Welcome, 901. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Actually, I'm trying to reach somebody with the radio station in the office.
You have reached the radio station. We're doing a live broadcast. Did you want to call about the show?
No, actually, I needed to talk to somebody about getting some of the shows sent to me to transcribe for another person who also is on the radio.
Okay. This is not the number.
Oh, okay. Do you have the number that I need to call?
What radio station?
Revolution Radio.
If you go to their website, the number will be on the left-hand side of the page.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, bye now.
Bye-bye.
Sorry about that, Tony.
Oh, it's okay. I thought we had somebody who wanted to chime in.
Yeah. No. And of course, all listener supported, guys, and we always could use your help, and I forget to say that. Thank you very much for all your help. Everyone that you hear on here is completely doing this on our own. And for me, it's just fun. I like it. I research stuff that, of course, I'm interested in. I want to hear what you guys think, too.
You do a great amount of research, too.
I like it. I really like it. As we've talked about, and even Dolly's mentioning, every single book that we have is obviously manipulated by kings and priests and ruling classes for their specific purpose. And as we started with, it's very easy to change people's beliefs. And it's done the exact same way. You go in, you rape the women, You bring little mixed children into the group. You take all the children away, put them in schools to be retrained, reindoctrinated into something completely different. You slaughter the leaders and the elders. You kill the strongmen. And when those children come back, they don't know who they are. Neither do the people on that land. And everything can be manipulated. We don't know any of our stories, to be honest. We don't.
No, because it's been so watered down throughout time.
Watered down and changed specifically. Changed,
Or
reworded.
eradicated.
The logos. Going from the mudra to the logos. Changes it. Changes what it means, changes where it's from, changes us physically. The genetic manipulation is very old. And I'm sure there's been many, many versions of us. Apparently, we always find the dome. We always find the four corners. And it always ticks us off. Eventually. First we kneel down and we pray to the border. And then a couple of us go, hey, you know what? Let's blow that thing up. Because I'm feeling both ways. I feel we get together, we fix this thing, and then we go after them. Join my army. Thank you for listening. Turtle Island News, Tracey Kennedy. Thank you so much for joining me today, Tony.
Thanks for having me.
Always a pleasure. And I'll talk to you after. And please join me on Thursday. We'll hear more, and this time scientific detail about these things. Love you guys, and thank you so much.
Bye, everybody.